Hello, my name is Dr. Jaime Frost. I'm a teacher at Tiffin School in Kingston in London, and I run a charity called DrFrostMaths Learning, which is about kind of online learning, currently for maths, but we're expanding out to other subjects. I think that there's many challenges. I think a challenge particularly in post-COVID times that students have lost a lot of learning, and there's been studies in terms of like the number of months of learning that students have lost, and it's trying to accommodate that. And I've particularly seen as a teacher with some of the students who've come into our sixth form, the kind of 16, 17-year-old students who've come in from other schools, and where they've had like up to 2 years of kind of fairly limited education where they've been learning from home, and some schools have been doing more than others, and there's just so many holes in understanding that students their age from a few years ago wouldn't have had. So that's one of the challenges. I think the challenges in terms of across the country, there is kind of different levels of funding, and particularly internationally that's more the case. But even in the UK, some schools have more funding than others, some schools attract better teachers than others, some schools have better developed curriculums than others, and it's about empowering teachers as well as students to give them the kind of right resource and the right tools and the right training. I once got an email during the lockdown from a school, St Helena, which is one of the British overseas territories, and their teachers, they generally have like a 1 or 2 year post because they know the teacher's not going to stay there on this remote island, and their school has very limited resources and very limited finances, and they've been relying, for example, on resources of our charity. And even in a sort of what's still a UK school as such, they have relatively limited resources, and those students kind of have the challenges of being quite an isolated environment. And I understand that in other kind of less developed countries, that's even more of a challenge, where it might be the kind of the sort of technological resources. And we heard one of the other panelists talk about the kind of lack of digital schools and lack of technology available to enable them to have that, but also the lack of technology in terms of aiding them in their learning as well. And I think if there's one thing, the priority I would say for governments is it's making sure that all schools across the world, the students have access to technology, because that access enables them, even if they might have other limited resources and sort of limited teachers wanting to work in, say, rural areas, they have access to such a wealth of good educational content and technology. In the UK, teachers aren't so badly paid. In other countries, even in the States, I think the teachers are quite poorly paid. And I think that pay is often a reflection of the perception of teachers and their worth. And I feel that teaching is such a demanding job, and the skills it involves and the kind of responsibility that we have, that I think teachers should be valued. I love teaching. I've been in for 10 years, and I don't feel like just because I have a PhD or whatever that somehow my skills are being wasted. I feel like my skills are being put in excellent use, and that's because I personally value teaching as a profession, and I think it's a really important profession. What are the practical things that will be achieved from this summit, whether it be increased funding, whether it be increased technology in schools, whether it be higher teacher retention rates. They're very much tangible things that we can measure in terms of the success in education. It's not just about lofty messages, it's about what we can actually practically achieve.